Okay. All right. So somebody just kind of somewhere brought it up, but um we're about to talk about something that they just mentioned. Deontay Wilder, Dominic Brazil. The fight is coming up on Saturday. Uh, Deontay's heavily favored to win the fight. I would be really surprised if he didn't. It is heavyweight boxing, so it only takes one.
Hmm.
But and Dominic Brazil's a big guy, but that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that let me just, for anybody that doesn't know this, I've been covering combat sports for about a decade. I've been watching the first fight I ever watched live, and I've been hooked ever since. Was John the Beast Mugabe against Marvin Hagler, and I believe it was in 1981, 82. First fight I ever watched, and I was locked in from ever since. I've been locked in ever since. So I'm not new to combat sports. So understand that. Let me preface what I'm about to say with that. But Deontay Wilder has taken to a habit that really puts me off. And it is talking up death in the ring. And he has literally said on more than one occasion, I think we're talking about 3 public occasions now, that he wants to kill a man in the ring. His exact words is, I want a body on my record. And he, said 2 days ago that Dominic Brazil's life is literally at stake, right? Now, a lot of people say, man, you say different things when you hype in the fight. It is what it is. It's not that whatever. And for the most part, I do agree with that, right? For the most part, there's a couple exceptions. I think we should leave people's families out of situations. Like, I could trash talk a fighter without, on a dude I'm about to fight, without talking about his wife and his mama and his kids. Like, I don't need to do that, right? I think that's taking it to a different level. And I don't think you necessarily need that to sell it. Um, and then race stuff and, discrimination type stuff, like that kind of stuff to me is when you're going beyond the realm of sports, right? The other thing is talking about killing somebody. And for me, having knowing what I know about the sport, having been around it the way I've been around it, having actually seen people die in the ring or die from things that have happened in the ring. A very, very, very close friend of mine, colleague, his name is Peter Kahn. He was involved in a fight where a guy died in the dressing room after collapsed and died after he left the ring. And he used to work for Don King. He was a boxer himself. He currently is a manager for several fighters, managers George Kambosos Jr., Saul Rodriguez. He's the manager of Xander Zayas, who is now the youngest fighter ever signed the Top Rank. He's going to make his professional debut in September. He's 16 years old. He's a beast. So this dude is a boxing guy, right? But he told me that, like, that is a moment when he really questioned whether or not this is what he should be doing, because it was that impacting to be around that. And it wasn't even his fighter. His fighter had knocked this guy out, and this is what happened, right? So that is nothing. Clearly, it's nothing to play with, right?
Hmm.
And because of the possibility that that could actually happen
Yeah.
is the reason why that is so uncomfortable. And here's the question I would love to ask Deontay. And as a matter of fact, I may very well get an opportunity to ask him this, because he's far from off limits for me to be able to interview. Uh, I Several colleagues I know are connected to him, and I've had the opportunity. Just things haven't lined up properly for me to speak to him yet. But if and when I do, I would love to ask him: are you really truly prepared to be the villain that you're setting yourself up to be? Because not everybody can be the villain. Some people think they can, and they think they want that smoke until it comes. Adrian Broner is a perfect example. And so for me, man, I that is very off-putting to me. I don't know how you feel
Well,
about
for this situation specifically, Deontay Wilder's case on this that he's stating is there was an altercation with his
it.
brother,
Yes.
right? And allegedly his brother knocked the guy out, or flattened him or whatever. And there was a thing with their families and so on and so forth. And that after the fact, that Wilder's family members received death threats.
Mhm.
And that's why he's speaking the way he's speaking now. And that he's not saying it literally, but he does want to cause some serious damage to the guy. He did specify what he meant by catch a body. He did say, I want to rearrange his face. I want him to be unrecognizable. I want to put a real hurt on him. And in that specification, it was pretty clear that he didn't mean he actually wanted to kill him. I
Well,
do think that can be a vernacular sometimes,
well,
or an
you know what?
exaggeration.
If that was the only time that he said it, that
Yeah.
would be different. But the first time that I heard him say it was on an episode of The Breakfast Club with Charlemagne.
Hmm.
And Charlemagne, you know Charlemagne.
Yeah.
He made him.
Literally, I actually did a New Year's comic with Charlemagne for Marvel.
Okay, awesome. He made him clarify what he meant. And he said, dude, you talking about you really want to kill a guy? He said, yeah, yes, I want that on my record. I want a body on my record. And this was way before the Brazil fight. This interview took place in March of last year, right? And it had nothing to do with Dominic Brazil at all.
Now, so
So
here's my question to you, though.
mhm,
So he's saying that, and he's selling his fights, he's talking things up, because that's a dramatic thing to say,
it
right?
is. It is.
Now, a guy who he actually has some, out of the ring problems with,
Hmm.
he has clarified that he wants to cause damage, not kill the guy.
Hmm. So
D-
here's the thing. I know that Deontay really doesn't want to kill this guy. I know he
okay.
does because Deontay badly injured Archer Spilka. Bad, like, and so many people are. So I put the link to his interview with Charlemagne in the chat, but many people remember the first time him and Tyson Fury ever came face to face. Tyson Fury hopped into the ring and he got all in Deontay's face, and you could visibly see Deontay was pissed. Like this was not like he's like it was like one of them things where you're putting on a show, but I ain't putting on no show right now. The
Hmm.
reason why Deontay was in that mood was because he was concerned because he had
Right.
just badly hurt Archer Spilka, right?
Hmm.
And because it was one of those knockouts where when you see the guy fall, you're like, oh,
Hmm. Something might be wrong. Yeah.
something might be wrong, and that's even more so why I have a problem with him saying it.
Because you don't feel like he really means it.
Because you don't mean that.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I'm of both minds with this. See, with UFC, because there's an organization,
Mm-hmm,
and because of the way their training camps are organized,
mm-hmm.
I think there's actually more martial arts honor in the UFC,
100%.
right? So I think there's an obligation to. So my view of competition is cooperative growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't view competition as war. It's not war.
It's
You're not
not, bro.
killing
It's
your opponent,
not.
because if you kill your opponent, eventually you run out of opponents and there's no more competition. You
Mm-hmm,
defeat your opponent, they get stronger, they come back and push you to be stronger. That's for the greater good. That's what makes competition beautiful. And in the UFC, I think that spirit is very, very much alive and well. Even within the trash talk, there's a line you don't cross, which is why people get so mad when Conor McGregor doesn't get punished for crossing that line, because he's supposed to be protecting his opponent's trainers and camp and all that stuff, not throwing stuff into there and causing all kinds of problems and stuff like that with the bus and things like that. So
mm-hmm.
but the trash talk is understood, but it's supposed to stop at trash talk. With boxing, because boxing is individual prize fighting on a different level, they don't have that same relationship. I think they're more prone to hyperbole, especially as boxing is not the number one, you know, overall combat sport anymore. I think individual fights might peak higher than individual fights, but UFC is literally on ESPN every weekend, right? And people are watching that all the time at a large level, whereas with boxing, there's a few individuals, but there's no organization. Yeah,
Right.
UFC is a
That's the
league,
big thing. That's a separation there. The viewership numbers are actually um they're not fantastic for UFC on ESPN right now. They're not fantastic.
Well,
They started off
the events haven't been fantastic. I think that's the key. They've been pretty bad
they started off
for
hot,
4 weeks.
but people love new
Yeah,
stuff.
since was it Adesanya Gastelum? I think it's all been stinkers since then.
It's been bad. It's been pretty bad. From well, no, no.
We had one more after that.
Yeah, Andrade Namajunas, that card, that fight was fantastic. It was. I mean, nothing happened that I didn't think was gonna happen, but that was memorable.
It
I
was
mean,
memorable.
yeah,
I thought that night was a whole night of people running, snatching, defeat from the jaws of victory, and a lot of people beating themselves. So I don't enjoy that.
Andrade was getting pieced up from the outside, but towards the end of the first round, I knew, and I told Junior, I said Rose can't do this for 5 rounds. I said
See, but she
because
should be going for that Kimura though.
but no, but that was she couldn't stop the power slam, and so they trained to, when she goes for the power slam, threaten the submission, and it worked the first time, but the second time when Andrade lifted her, she made an adjustment in the way that she dropped, because she adjusted her on her shoulders as opposed to lift slam. She lifted
So
her,
yeah.
got the arm out, and then dropped.
So this is the thing, and this is to help you in fighting games. When you're winning, just keep winning. This is why I defend Tyron Woodley against Dana White always coming after him for his quote-unquote conservative fights.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard this expression. It's on the person losing the fight to be the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is if you are winning, the clock is your friend, do nothing. And either your opponent sits there and takes that L, or they expose themselves to danger. And if they're able to skillfully expose themselves to danger and force you to fight, good on them, we're back in a fight. But make them climb that hill. I felt like Rose did not play the safe, I done pieced you up for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, right? Tagged you. I mean, she tagged that girl up.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you still fighting so hard? Chill out.
Honestly, I don't think she was. I think she did stick to the game plan. But here's the thing: it was two factors: the leg kicks. The leg kicks to Rose's left leg began to have an impact, and there was nothing really that she could do with that, because she wanted to establish the jab. She wanted to box. That was the right game plan. That's how she was piecing her up. But in that stance, she was exposing that leg kick. And then Andrade's counter to that was, I'm going to eat these shots and my face is going to get marked up, but I'm not going to stop coming. And I'm going to kick that front leg. And I'm gambling.
So are you saying Rose couldn't have fought smarter?
Honestly, here's the thing. She got hurt at the end of the first round. Mm-hmm. She got hurt from leg kicks, and she got hurt from a left hook to the body. She got bop, bop, bop on the leg. If you look at her leg was badly bruised. Now, true enough, she's Sheamus's complexion, so she's pale, so she's gonna mark up easy, right?
Right.
But the leg was hurt, right? And then I don't know if you saw this. There was a left hook to the body in the last 30 seconds that caused this. Mm-hmm. And what happened was she was jabbing and she was moving and she was staying on the spots, bop, bop, and moving the same way. But Andrade had become she'd gotten used to the shots, and the punches weren't necessarily hurting anymore. They were cutting and stinging, but they weren't stopping her, right? Mm-hmm. And bop, the right hand would come, boom, it would stop. But she was coming forward and she was starting to do more head movement, and then she dipped and slipped one of the jabs, bang, left hook to the body, and it caused a The other thing is this, which this is a total intangible and a total mental thing. Rose has some emotional things, right?
Yeah.
And this is, for her to get to where she is is a marvel in itself for what she has been through in her life, right? I love Rose Namajunas. So let me just say, Rose Namajunas is fantastic. She is a fantastic athlete. She's a fantastic martial artist, you know, just sweet as can be, just a sweet person, right? And just a beast, and just always just a beast. But I know, I was gonna say I don't think. I know she does not love fighting.
Yeah.
She's just good at it, right? And when you're that way and you're fighting somebody who is determined and physically skilled, and especially if that physical skill is power, that's tough, because that
I agree,
pressure.
it's tough, and I don't want to take anything away from Andrade. I just thought Rose could have fought a smarter fight
Yeah.
later on in the match.
Mook Allen says Rose looks like a lead character in an action movie. Absolutely, she could be Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil in a second. And on the real, she's might be a little prettier than Mila Jovovich, because Rose is a cutie pie. So it's like it's like, man, like I literally hated to see her dropped on the side of her head. Like I was like, oh. No, not on the head. Like, oh no, not on the side of the head, because she missed a year because of a neck injury.
Yeah.
And so immediately when I saw that, I'm like, oh no. You know what I mean? So I was happy to see her get up, but she was very revealing in her post-fight interview. She said, this was a big weight off of me.
Yeah, relief. That's not a good sign going forward.
Man.
So I'm kind of glad that it turned out the way it turned out. It's probably better for her and the division and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in that actual fight, I would have enjoyed the fight more if I felt that she was being really smart and clever, and that Andrade overcame that. I didn't think she put that wall up.
I think she did, man. I really do, because she knew from a physical, no strawweight can match Andrade physically. None of them can. None of them can. And so to beat her, you have to beat her from the outside. You have to then be able to stuff her takedowns, because she's tough. So she generally is going to eat some of those strikes on the way in, and she's still going to be able to get that engagement on the cage. But you got to force the head down. You got to get the legs wide to be able to stop that takedown, to keep her from clenching her hands together. Rose is not super strong, right? Not super strong. And when Jessica got, on one hand, I do understand what you're saying. You're saying you're accepting the beginning of the takedown concept by going for the Kimura, right? So you're accepting it, rather than fighting the hands or forcing the head down.
The overall level of, and I know this is not the most exciting thing, but bicycling, creating distance, forcing a little chase, because she had such a striking advantage, I think that could have been better.
But I thought she did that, though. I don't think all of those things you said, I thought she did that.
Yeah, I didn't think she did it good enough. I thought she accepted too much scrap.
Yeah, I thought
she accepted too much smoke once she was clearly winning.
Because the thing with that fight, and this goes even outside of MMA, this is any combat sport. If your vehicle to victory is striking from a distance without one punch or one strike KO ability, and you're going to have to stop your opponent due to cumulative punishment, which is pretty much what Rose was going to have to do with Andrade, it becomes a war of attrition, because it takes a lot. Most fighters can't fight moving backwards. That was part of what made Muhammad Ali so great, because he can box moving backwards. It takes a lot of energy to fight effectively on the move, and it takes a lot of stamina and will to continue to do that when you got this monster coming at you who won't stop, and you're hitting him or her, and they still won't stop. And I think that she got broken. I think she got broken because I think she felt that she had landed enough shots from distance to the point where this should be over by now. I have clearly outstruck her.
And if that's the case, that still goes in line with what I'm saying, where you weren't mentally strong enough in the octagon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what
I 100% believe
right.
that. I
And
think
that's what I'm saying. It wasn't I didn't think that she was 100% outfought by the opponent. Like that was her best fight and the opponent beat her best fight. I felt she cooperated a little bit. And I don't like seeing fighters cooperate a little bit. It's one thing if your fight style is high risk and you go for the risk and it doesn't pay off. It's another thing when you know, this is an exaggerated version, when you're Michael Venom Page and you jump into the KO screen.
Oh my God, man. Man, we
But
was hurt.
we
We
done
was
started
hurt
talking
that
MMA. We got to get to Ask Us, bro. But
yeah,
that was pretty funny. If y'all haven't seen that Michael Venom Page thing, that is right out the book of Tekken right there.
That was
Has grand finals
and he's my guy too, right? And that the way that went down, I'm gonna see if I can throw the link into the description into the chat for y'all. Yeah. It was nasty. It was absolutely nasty.